Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday, and the patch notes for patch 7.15 have just been posted, and that means it's time for another patch note rundown. As always, I'll be going through the biggest changes located in this patch, and talking about what you guys might expect in the coming weeks. Now, this patch will likely be out for a little bit longer, as this is the Worlds patch. That's correct, 7.15 is what Riot have targeted for Worlds to be played on. That means that 7.15 will be what the pros play on, so it has a lot of very minor balance changes as Riot try to shape up the competitive meta by nerfing down professional picks that have been very common and buff up picks that are just slightly under level. Now, Riot have been very conservative, so a lot of champions have received changes, but not very many changes. So I'll be going through a lot of different champions, trying to make sure I separate them out as best as I can, and talking about the ones that I feel are going to be the most relevant in the coming weeks. First up, Urgot. Urgot's rework is in this patch. I can't wait to annihilate people with that ultimate. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and he looks like my kind of champion, so I'm sure we're all very excited that Urgot is finally going to actually be a champion in League of Legends. It's going to be a good time. That's in this patch. He should be available to play starting tomorrow, I believe. Next up, let's talk about Azir. Azir is intended to be a late game hyper carry champion, but he hasn't really been holding up that end of the bargain. So Riot have given him a little bit of power back. He now does more damage on his soldiers' stabs with his champion level. It scales up a little bit better now, so Azir should be a little bit stronger in the late game. Next is Cho'Gath. He's getting nerfed. I don't think any of us are surprised that this is coming. He's been very, very strong. So strong, in fact, that he's almost pick or ban in professional play at the moment, and he could definitely use some nerfs. Because as it turns out, having an on-demand slow makes it really easy to land the knockup from Rupture. So Cho'Gath is having his E nerfed. The base damage and percent max health damage are both down, so Cho'Gath shouldn't be doing as much damage as he was before, even if he lands his full combo. Next up is Dr. Mundo. Mundo is getting buffed. He's always kind of been an anti-magic tank, given that a tank can get bursted and survive it, but they're still very battered and in no shape to continue fighting. Whereas Dr. Mundo has all of the healing and sustain brought from sadism that can quickly top him back up and help him continue fighting. So Mundo's being shifted into more of the anti-magic juggernaut role. So now his E grants him percent MR whenever he takes magic damage or pays a health cost. So Dr. Mundo will be very good about dealing with sustained magic dealers such as Cassiopeia as well. Gragas is getting nerfed in this patch as well. He clears way too fast for every other tool he has available to him, and because everyone's kind of figured out the delay on his ultimate at this point, it makes a lot more sense to start reining that ability back in. Accordingly, Gragas now has lost his base attack speed, and his ultimate now has a slightly longer cooldown at earlier ranks, so he'll have to be a little bit more careful with when and where he uses Explosive Cask early on, and he won't clear quite as quickly. Next up is Kayn. Kayn is being buffed mostly just his Shadow Assassin form. Darken form seems reasonable, regular Kayn seems reasonable, but Shadow Assassin just has not really worked out for Kayn so far. And he's been in a relatively okay spot, right, or okay with him taking a long time to get figured out, given that he is an assassin. Assassins are intended to be high skill cap, yada yada yada. So they're being careful with the buffs, but they are buffing him. Kayn's R now has a bonus AD ratio increased. Remember that in Darken form, the AD ratio is replaced with percent max HP ratio, so Darken is unaffected. This is strictly a buff for Shadow Assassin Kayn, and I suppose regular Kayn as well. Additionally, there were lots of bug fixes for Kayn's abilities, specifically Shadow Assassin's passive, so Kayn should be feeling in a much better spot in the next patch. Next up is Nasus. He is getting buffed as well. Nasus was always meant to be a great late game juggernaut, but he isn't really that great late. In fact, he spikes better in the mid game, and that's because he spends most of his time hitting tanks and not squishies just because he gets kited so easily. So Riot are making it a little bit easier for him in the late game to break through these tanks and become the terror he's always meant to be. Spirit Fire's armor reduction was changed from a flat amount to a percent amount, so it'll help him better against tanks. And while Fury of the Sands is active, Nasus's Q cooldown has been cut in half. This means he'll get more Qs while his ult's active, allowing him to really chew through tanks, and if they're standing in Spirit Fire, bad things are going to happen to them. Finally, we have Zac nerfs. He's still too strong. I did do a video about him yesterday, in fact. And a lot of it doesn't even have to do with the amount of damage he's bringing. It's just a lot of utility, and on top of that, a lot of sustain. Allowing Zac to double dip with his Q blobs actually gives a ton of sustain for Zac, especially given how often the ability is up in the late game. So Zac is getting some more nerfs targeted at making him a little bit of a riskier pick. First, his Q now costs more health. The cost was doubled from 4% of his current health to 8% of his current health, and has a higher cooldown. Meanwhile, W now deals less damage across the board. I believe it was nerfed by 15 damage at all levels. Zac should be feeling a little bit toned down. I don't know if this is going to be enough to reduce him from being a contested pick in professional play, as he has always been very good and valued for his utility, not necessarily his damage, but we'll see if these changes do anything for him. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about Duskblade of Drakthar, as that did receive a couple of changes. The Night Stalker passive deals less damage if you're a ranged champion, and will not slow if you're a ranged champion, so you can no longer reliably use that if you have a gun, but if you're a melee assassin, as was intended, then Duskblade will still work better for you. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Go ahead and let me know which changes you are most excited for down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.